Right.
Welcome to Karriem and Company, episode 9.
Number 9.
Today we'll talk about the impact of COVID-19, the African American community.
Economic factors.
Absolutely. The risk that is happening in our communities. Also, the implications of why the numbers are so high among our people.
Yes, and very devastating. So we want to make sure you stay tuned for that, as well as the untold lynching of Emmett Till's father.
That's right, Lewis Till,
Yeah.
the untold story. So check us out for more Karriem and Company right after this.
I want to say a special shout out to all of our viewers and Jerry X Spraggins. Thank you for diligently checking into us and all the others out there, especially those young people who still check in with us, that Columbus Middle School 8th grade class.
Absolutely. Just want to remind you to please subscribe to Karriem and Company. You're able to do so on YouTube, also on Facebook, and click that like button. Hey, we want to hear from you. We really appreciate your comments, your questions, any concerns you have. And right after this message today, we're going to give you a few details of how to stay in touch with us.
Yeah, and then we'd love your email too. And Otman, if you would, just give them the email so that they can email you your questions, your calls, your comments. Give me your email, and then I'll shoot them some phone numbers.
Okay, that's mindfulness365.com. Mindfulness365.com. Love to hear from you. Check us out.
Or you could reach us directly, 662-435-3732, 662-435-3732, or 662-491-1683, 662-491-1683.
Before we jump in to today's message, I just want to present some things that I brought that I thought would help us better fight and build up an immune system. This is black seed oil. See that? Black seed oil. That's really important to have in your medicine cabinet.
And it's good for everything, internally and externally. It's good for colds,
high blood pressure.
It's good for rheumatism, arthritis,
diabetes.
It's good for burns. I know that I had burnt my foot severely by water being on it back here a couple of years ago. Completely healed it whole.
So that is black seed oil. A lot of places have the watered down version. This is Miss Arlene's. She's out of Houston, Texas.
But how much is this running a bottle?
That runs about $20. And it lasts a long time because you don't need very much.
Right. All you need is just a couple of drops of it if you take it internally. And if you're doing it externally, just rub it on the affected area. It works. It's from a little bitty, tiny seed from the Middle East. Black seed oil was used by the Egyptians all the way back to when it was called Kemet. So it's very, very old medicine.
It's very good for you brothers who want that superpower. Get some black seed oil. You'll be glad you did.
Some brothers might need a super job before they get this.
Yeah, super job. Also, something that may be in your refrigerator, just as simple as a lemon. A lemon, this is a very useful ingredient to have in your house. It's an antiseptic. It's good in vitamin C.
Flame cutter.
Make a tea out of it. It cuts phlegm. And you want to eliminate mucus in your body. That's the number one cause of disease, cancer, soreness, swelling, inflammation. Get you a couple. Get you a bag of lemon. Something as simple as that can save your life.
While he's reaching for those roots, special.
How'd you know what was next?
Oh, I know what's coming next. Special shout out to Khadijah out of Houston, Texas. Thank you for joining
Khadija
us.
checking in.
Yeah.
All right. This is ginger root. Get a close shot of that. Cameraman, can you see that?
That's ginger root now.
Ginger root.
Don't you confuse that with John the Congo root. That's ginger root, ginger.
This is something that you can find in the produce department.
And it's got very good health properties.
Absolutely. This is an antiseptic. What I'd like to do is just eat it raw.
Yeah.
You can make a tea out of it. You can put it in your foods. Real good seasoning. I suggest that you try to get this in your diet at least 2 to 3 times a week. Gets parasites, rids your body, your intestines of parasites. Just something really, really, really good to have around the house. You can find it in the produce department. Very inexpensive. You have to get you some ginger root.
And let me just stick a pin here. As long as you have this ginger in your diet at least twice a month, you don't have to worry about those inside worms.
That's right, parasites.
Those parasites, tapeworms, and unwelcome bacteria.
Absolutely. Is just cut off a pea, water, let it set a few minutes, maybe 15, 30 minutes. Make a tea out of it, add a little honey, you're good to go. Okay, ginger.
And one of the reasons why we're bringing some of these things to the forefront, these are old remedies that our people got away from, and we're more reliant upon fast foods, the fast food economy, processed foods, a lot of sugar, and we are surely dependent upon prescription medication. Matter of fact, 96% of all Americans are addicted to prescription medication.
And sugar.
And sugar.
And believe it or not, you have to keep in mind what would make a person want to keep you well if his job is to make you sick.
Yeah, well, actually, they don't do preventive medicine. They treat disease.
Well, and actually, yeah.
And so that's the economic engine that fuels the whole healthcare industry.
Absolutely.
The treatment of disease. Well, in order to make money to treat disease, that means that I have to keep making you sick.
And you never cure the problem. You're always trying to fix the symptom.
That's right.
So these things will help you. I've got one more. You remember this from old school, this way back.
Oh, yes. Some Dr. Tishner's.
Dr. Tishner's.
Now, you can ask your grandma and papa about this one.
It's kind of hard to find.
And I tell you what, you better not drink it like you're drinking Kool-Aid because you're going to be on fire on the inside. But it's an antiseptic. It will kill them internal germs. And, while we're moving into the COVID-19, because we're in this era, when you do these things, if you have come in contact with someone that has the disease, by you drinking water and doing these things, it'll flush it into your stomach area. Your stomach area, if you have the bacteria of COVID-19, it'll come out in your stool. And so it gets it out of your body.
Yeah, and it rids your body of mucus. Mucus is responsible for various forms of cancer. Like I once stated, something that you can do on the front end that can eliminate hospital visits. Just some real simple things. Once again, black seed oil. Get some of that ginger.
And some good old Dr. Tishner's.
And some lemons. Hey, and oranges too. And believe it or not, don't throw away the peel. The peel is very, very important. It freshens your house. You can put some in your shoes. Hey, if your feet are cutting up, this will do the trick.
Yeah. And one last simple thing that everyone can do, drink 8 glasses of water a day.
Yes.
8 glasses.
That's important.
8 glasses of water a day, and it will cut down on all that stuff. Colds, flu, viruses, and it'll keep you going regular to the bathroom.
Yes.
All right.
So that's not it.
No, we good.
Okay, just jumping in the crux of things. I want to talk about COVID-19.
Disproportionately high fatality rate among African American people all across the nation.
Yes, there are some systemic social economic factors that are playing into the reason why the numbers are so high in the community, namely because African American people have most of the service providing jobs, such as transportation,
food service,
such as restaurants and grocery stores.
right?
These are front end jobs that
Put you on the front line on a daily basis.
and so these put you at risk time and time again. And
let me just stick a pin here, because a lot of us do these service-oriented jobs because we're compelled to do so because we can't afford to stay home.
yeah, and you're right. You're exactly right. We don't have that advantage. Some other things that make us more at risk. African Americans are less likely to have health insurance or access to quality health care.
Yeah.
Being in the rural community, you've known that they've closed down quite a few hospitals due to funding.
Right.
So that impacts us significantly.
But I mean, if I may, before there's certainly you got all the underlying issues, but the number one issue is the reason why our fatality rates are so high is, guess what? We don't follow instructions. Yes, we don't follow instructions. They give a curfew. We break the curfew. They say shutter in place. We don't shutter in place. We still congregate 20, 30 at a time. We're still having parties. We're still having house parties. We're still having block parties. We're still riding up and down the street. We're still going to Coco Brown's house. We have disregarded what has been set in place for us, which is contributing to our demise. And a lot of us are not even informed in terms of what's going on around us. You know what? If I was to ask how many people have perished in the world today, we couldn't tell you. How many people have perished in the United States today? We couldn't tell you. How many people have perished in your particular state that you live in? We couldn't tell you.
Well, just for the record, tell us how many people from the COVID-19 alone.
Well, we're working on 2 million people globally, but just in the United States, right now, it's at 19,000, almost 600 deaths as this broadcast is being broadcast right now. 19,000. We're working on 20,000 easily. Matter of fact, before Easter Sunday, we'll probably have around 20,100 or 20,200 deaths. The deaths have accelerated over the last 48 hours astronomically.
And this disease has not peaked yet.
No.
It has not even peaked or plateaued.
Now, the Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, he told us, and I appreciate him. I appreciate him because he's real forthcoming on this information. He's not double talking like Trump or what's the woman named Dr. Bixby or whatever. They double talk out both sides of their neck because they want to appease Trump, but yet they want to be medical doctors. Surgeon General said these next 2 weeks are going to be some hellacious weeks. That these next couple of weeks, it's going to be like Harbor. And if you know anything about Pearl Harbor, America suffered massive fatalities at Pearl Harbor. And so just this week alone, we have seen astronomical fatalities, of which, I'm working on 62 years old. I have never seen anything like this before in all of my days.
Just in case you're just joining in, we want to welcome you to Karriem and Company. Want to send some love out to Rashida Shelton, Brother Jamal Karriem. Thanks for watching and tuning in. As we continue to talk about COVID-19.
Jamal, that's one of us?
That's Kyrie.
Oh, Kyrie Jamal.
Yeah.
All right.
As we continue to talk about some of the implications and ramifications, why this seems to be so disproportionately impacting the Afro race.
Right.
And don't let that term fool you. Disproportionately means more than.
Yeah.
Other groups.
More us than them.
That's all it means.
More of us.
Don't be alarmed by that. I could say that.
Now,
we're being affected more, but I just have a list that I want to run down to you before we start, is that racism is also a factor in terms of the increased numbers of the COVID-19. And what I mean by the racism that's being a factor, not only in the disparity of healthcare, I'm talking about in terms of doctors in office visits, um, not offering Afro people test or people of color the test when they're in the office. So by those means, we're suffering.
Mm. You know, and very special thanks and shout out to our brother, State Representative Karriem. He let me be privy to a conference call uh, that was day before yesterday, which that would have been on, I think, April 10th, Thursday, April 10th. On that night, we were on a conference call with Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Congressman from Mississippi Benny Thompson, NAACP President Derek Johnson, uh, uh, and a whole host of others, Camilla Harris. One of the things that was discussed and about this disparity, which my brother is sharing these figures and giving, spit knowledge, giving input. But the bottom line that Benny Thompson, Congressman Benny Thompson said from Mississippi, because the question was asked, said, hey, these disparities just didn't occur because of COVID-19.
Mm.
These disparities always have existed, but now you have all these fatalities because of this particular disease. But we've always been discriminated against when it comes to health care.
Yes.
We've always had a disproportionate amount of health services when it comes to our people having treatment. If you had no money, you could get no treatment. If you have no insurance, you can get no treatment. Just right here in Mississippi, you've got almost 500,000 people. Most of them are black people without insurance. So the question was asked, what can we do about this? How can communities that don't have transportation get testing? Because where they're placing these testing centers at for COVID-19, they're putting testing centers out of reach of rural and socially disadvantaged people. So what can we do? What is it that we can do? And do you know what the congressman said?
What?
And I agree with him wholeheartedly.
What's that?
He said, well, there's two things that you have to do. Number one, you've got to be civic-minded and participate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. The second thing that you got to do is you've got to raise hell. Do I need to repeat those things again? You've got to be civic-minded and participate. And if you want to live, if you want your people to live, if you want testing in your area where there's no transportation, you can't just lay down and do nothing. You've got to raise hell
About the issue.
You have to raise hell about the issue. You've got to raise hell about being tested for COVID-19 because what? New Orleans, they're putting people on the side of the road and putting them in paupers' graves. You got Louisiana, 72% death rate, African Americans.
Right. Chicago.
Chicago, you've got what? 60% death rate of African Americans. Detroit, Michigan, New York. Okay, well, you look at CNN and all these different figures and say, wow, a lot of people are dying in New York. What you need to do is you need to put a little synonym or homonym in there and say, wow, it's a lot of black people dying.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was saying, alluded to earlier, is that in proportion to white people, 30% in the state of Illinois make up the African American population, but there's 70% of the cases that are dying.
You know, you remember when Jesse Jackson was running for president?
Yeah, both times.
Well, in his last presidential bid, I want to say that was 1988. 1988, he came through little bitty old Columbus, Mississippi. You know what he told me when he came through here?
What did he say?
He said, brother, he said, Reverend, the problem with our people is they don't understand how to stand up and speak out. But you know what? Even a hog will squeal before you kill him.
So we got to stand up, be counted.
Frederick Douglass said, agitate, agitate, agitate. You know, and those were the last words Frederick Douglass said before he had a heart attack and died. Young man came to see him on the hill after he got through walking up that tall hill. What was it? Cedar Hill?
Anacostia.
Yeah, in Anacostia, Maryland.
That's a part of DC.
Yeah, and said, Mr. Douglas, I admire your work. What can we do? He said, agitate, agitate, agitate. He went in the house, had a heart attack, and died. We've got to say something. We just can't lay down and let others do for us what we could do for ourselves.
And you know, it's really sad because when you have this disease, there's a lot of unknowns. You're dying alone. In New York City, they're placing people in mass graves, you know, as many as 20 at a time that are being buried together. No ceremony, no acknowledgement. I think they give the family 14 days to claim the body. After that, then you're put in these mass graves. Also, the backstory to this as it relates to African Americans and as they go to other communities wearing EPPs, that's Environmental Protection procedure or equipment, especially the mask.
Right.
There were two brothers that were put out of Walmart in Illinois for having this type of mask on. So my question is that going to be a factor as this go along in terms of other places? You're dressing out. You can't go into different stores. Your profile because you look a certain way.
Right.
Is that going to be a problem?
Well, you know, from what I see, Brother Ottman, and what I observe, we really going to have to be concerned about ourselves and for one another. Getting back to Representative Karriem, you know, I see his pain every day. Every day he painstakingly, he puts out information. He puts out information letting people know how many died, what you need to do. You need to wash your hands for 20 seconds. You know, we have to, but we can't let men like that stand alone. We have to get with them because they can't do it alone.
Absolutely.
They can't do it alone. You know what we're doing? We've got this, we want somebody to die on the cross for us while we all look. And we've got that that type of syndrome when we all need to be out there on the forefront together, you know. And you bring up all of these very good statistics. Yes, we have diabetes, we have cancers, we have high blood pressures, we have rheumatisms, and all these underlying issues. But the most important part is we need social justice to meet medical justice. We need a public policy where everybody gets treated for any illness, including COVID-19, all the way across the board, where we all have testing, where we all are able to be treated, and there's no kind of discrepancies. There's no kind of discrepancies in resources that, and especially for all of us that live in rural communities, like Mississippi, it has a population of almost 4 million people. Well, it has a large land mass in contrast to its population. Well, as this disease reaches its apex, you're going to see some shocking results in terms of fatalities coming right out of Mississippi, where we're broadcasting from, because you got people in rural areas and areas with a lack of transportation where they're not able to be tested, and these test sites are being very selective. And now what they're doing is, because somebody has tapped somebody on the head and say people need testing, they'll come in the community and stay for just one day.
Well, and then we have to also factor in the economic value in terms of testing. Is there a cost associated with the testing? Are those costs affordable? And I'd like to tag on to one of the other justices that we have to be diligent about, and that's economic justice. Because without economic justice, we don't have the other political justice and other terms of justice, environmental justice, and we are stagnant because of that.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because just like with the stimulus package that has been passed, and the stimulus package for businesses and small businesses, they've got a problem with that in terms of economic justice. All your big wigs, all your big corporations that already have an established relationship with banks, they have gotten ahead of the little poor shop owner And there was this one woman that was on the conference call with us. She was speaking to Pelosi and Thompson and the other congressmen, and was saying, I went to the bank and they told me I didn't qualify. Pelosi said she would take up her case personally, but what if you don't have a Pelosi to take up your case? How many people have been turned around and got small businesses been turned around right now because the bank don't know you or claim they don't have a relationship with you? And that's not how that bill is supposed to go.
Or what about the workers that won't be coming back to work?
Right, the ones that's laid off that won't be rehired.
Right,
Well,
because you've been there a certain number of years, and it's cheaper to keep someone that's just started. So those are some things that we have to look at going into this.
So going away from this program, I just want to ask, are you just going to lay down and just let it happen? Is that what you're going to do? You're just going to let all this stuff happen? Or are you going to wait and let someone else do this? Or are you going to stand up for yourself? You're going to join forces? For those of us in Mississippi, you're going to contact my brother and ask, what can I do, or what can I do to help besides what you have specified? Because he's trying to get you to fill out stuff for the census, trying to get you to obey the CDC regulations and rules for washing your hands, shutter in place, don't be out after the curfew, so on and so forth. So we should, and then massive layoffs at Mississippi hospitals.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy. You're going to need these workers, and listen, and going back to what you said, because of economic reasons, they're laying off hospital workers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we speak.
Yeah. Somebody just texted, said, should I be worried? I've been working at a hospital for 38 years. Should I be worried? Yes, you should.
Absolutely.
Yes, you should.
Well, with the time remaining, we're going to take the last few minutes to talk about Emmett Till. I'd like to pick up, if we can, on next time about the COVID-19, as it's called now,
Right.
the political name.
And then maybe we'll have some more information next episode about the new stimulus package that they're putting through, and then maybe our brother can come on and he can give us an update, because he's trying to disseminate information. He's pretty well plugged into what they're doing in Washington and the state of Mississippi. So
once again, I'd like to thank everyone that's tuned in, and like I said, you can catch us on YouTube if you've missed this edition, and but with the time remaining, Louis Till. Louis Till is often not mentioned in the backstory of Emmett Till. Louis Till is Emmett Till's father. Mm-hmm. And in 1944, during an air raid in Italy, he was charged. He along with another airman, a military serviceman, Fred McMurray, were charged in the rape of 2 Italian women in Italy, in Pisa, Italy. And subsequently they were found guilty and lynched. And this is really, really interesting, because for those of you that know the story of Emmett Till, he was lynched. But the two were never connected in terms of the atrocious way that they died.
right,
It was never a correlation between that.
the U.S. Army was segregated
Yes, it
during
was.
that time.
And racist.
Yeah, and we would this country would make black soldiers go and serve, risk their lives, and then they would come back and could be lynched over here in America.
That's right. So I just thought that was very interesting for those who wanted a little black history or something to read while you're on the inside. It's good to kind of dig into that.
And it's still a cloud hanging over that whole complete case, because according to a few writers and a few people that lived during that time, they don't believe that the men were guilty of what they were charged.
Absolutely.
They were lynched just simply because they were black.
Well, stay tuned for some good information right after this broadcast. And once again, thank you for joining us. Continue to follow Karriem and Company.
Please hit the like button.
Absolutely. On the like button on Facebook as well as YouTube. And
you can catch all those back episodes.
Yes.
What we've got, this is the 9th episode.
9th episode.
If you've missed any of our episodes, you can start from episode 1, and you can have you a Karriem and Company marathon.
Well, until next time, as we continue to impart light, facilitate vision, fuel empowerment, and always, always inspire action. Peace and love.
Thank you for watching.